Good evening, folks. This is Deb Delapiana. And tonight, we're going to be talking about Jim Jordan, the esteemed, whatever the hell he is, public servant from Ohio, okay? Who, by the way, is running for re-election. Now, let's talk about the reality of just exactly who Jim Jordan is. So just give me a minute here, okay? So, Jim Jordan, by way of just a little introduction, sometime, during this fine millennium, Jim Jordan and Mike Pence didn't believe that the Republican Party was conservative enough, so they started this thing called the Freedom Caucus. And what the Freedom Caucus actually is a caucus that defends the morality. It's morality. It's a family values caucus. It's a anti-gay family values caucus. Okay, so Jim Jordan has been embroiled in this sexual abuse scandal that involved wrestlers from Ohio State University, where he was actually the coach, the assistant coach from, 1987 to 1995, his pre-political days. And it is alleged that this doctor, Richard Strauss, who has been a doctor for these wrestlers, for almost 20 years. And it's estimated that he could have sexually assaulted up to 1,500 boys. There are 150, a little over 150 that have come forward, by the way. And, this is a blog, and I understand that. But I do want to tell you, the fact of the matter is that all of these things right here on the side, these are all articles that have appeared about Jim Jordan, knowing this from publications like the Akron Beacon Journal, Slate, the Washington Post, NBC, the New York Times, Truth Out, CBS News, all credible news sources, many of them mainstream. In fact, right here at the top of this blog, there is a statement here from the Cleveland Plain Dealer editorial board, which says, "No more denials. Jim Jordan must acknowledge what he knew." So the allegations are that these boys were molested, and he insists that he didn't know anything about it. However, 11 of these boys say that this abuse was so prevalent that there is absolutely no way that Jim Jordan could not have known, and at least 2 of them have said that they specifically told Jim Jordan. And one of the boys said Jim Jordan snickered at him and said he wanted no part of it. Now, as an assistant coach or as a coach, anytime you're dealing with kids, college-age kids, high school kids, your job is to protect those kids. And that is clearly not what Jim Jordan did here. The question is, what did he know? When did he know it? The question has to be asked. This has been basically another example where we have circled the wagons around Jim Jordan and defended him. That's what the GOP does. The GOP doesn't, stand up. Let's look at Donald Trump. We have multiple verbal recordings of people like Sean Hannity and Laura Ingraham and Kevin McCarthy and Lindsey Graham and others saying that Donald Trump needed to stop that riot. They needed to stop that riot. It needed to be called off. None of that happened. But after all was said and done, when all the carnage was over in Washington, all of those months after, these very same people who were insistent it had to stop circled the wagons around Trump and supported him, because this is what the GOP does. There are a lot of articles here by a lot of credible publications. And when the push came to shove, what was Jim Jordan's position here? That 150 plus of these kids choreographed this in advance, and it was choreographed and led by the left so that it could hurt him in his bid for Speaker of the House. Look at, in order for that to be the case, they would have had to have choreographed all this even prior to him becoming a politician, because he was not a politician at the time this happened. This is absolutely unconscionable that people can sit back and not insist that this needs to be investigated. This man is running for public office. This is unacceptable. Anybody remember Dennis Hastert? He was another one. He was another one who sexually abused boys. And I'm not saying Jim Jordan sexually abused boys, but if you know that's going on and you're not standing up, you're just as bad, as far as I'm concerned. I'm urging everybody to look at this. This cannot be hidden. This should not be hidden. He is mentioned as a co-defendant in lawsuits on this. And his response, by the way, let me just take you through a little trip through here. Crossing Jordan, Representative Jim Jordan is trying to silence the former students who have accused him of knowing about sexual abuse. There are allegations that he tried to quiet these kids. Allegations against Jim Jordan strike at the wrestling persona he has carefully cultivated. That's the Washington Post. Jordan steps off defense amid sex abuse firestorm. You know how he stepped up his defense? He hired a crisis public relations firm. A crisis public relations firm. This is the stuff that brings politicians down, and it is the stuff that should bring politicians down. This is unquestionably a story, and this is unquestionably something that shouldn't be swept under the carpet and ignored. I don't care that it's an election season. I heard all of this, and I know that there's actually a documentary in the making that's being directed by George Clooney. And I listened to this. I, did not really go looking for any of this until somebody sent this to me. And then I started looking at actually all the newspaper articles. This stuff should not be hidden. This guy is unfit for public office. He's unfit for public office in many ways. But this is the clincher for me. This shit cannot be ignored. The people in the United States need to demand better from their public servants. They need to demand better. They need to demand people who have character. It does matter, okay? This is unacceptable. This should not be hidden. Spread this goddamn blog everywhere. Folks, the pressure has to come from someone, because all the GOP does is circle the wagons and defend their men all the way to the end, especially a guy like Jim Jordan, who is a real family values kind of guy. I'll talk to you all later.